Right now, somewhere over the Black Sea, a pilot's GPS is quietly lying to them, telling them they're somewhere they're not, and they have no way to immediately know it's wrong. Last year, GPS jamming and spoofing hit aircraft more than 430,000 times. On the worst days, over 1,000 flights were affected. Modern aircraft lean on GPS for almost everything, not just the map, but the clock, the autopilot, even how it talks to air traffic control. Here's the part most people don't know. Civilian GPS was built deliberately open, unencrypted. The military's version is signed and authenticated. The civilian one just trusts whatever it hears. Here's how we even know. Planes constantly broadcast their own GPS position to everyone. Flight trackers, regulators, other aircraft. When that position is fake, it's fake in public, for anyone watching. Each satellite carries an atomic clock precise enough that a timing error of 1 nanosecond, 1/1000th of a second, would already throw the position off by about 30 centimeters. So every satellite just constantly broadcasts one thing, the exact time, by its own clock, that this specific signal left. Your receiver compares that timestamp to right now. The delay, times the speed of light, is exactly how far away that satellite is. Do that with 4 satellites and their distances overlap at one point on Earth. A cheap receiver clock is slightly wrong, so really it needs a 5th satellite just to correct for that. By the time that signal crosses 20,000 kilometers of space, it's fainter than background radio noise, weaker than a car radio picking up a station 3 states away. Jamming just floods that faint signal with noise, so the receiver gives up entirely. Spoofing is sneakier. It broadcasts a fake signal that's cleaner and stronger than the real one. A civilian receiver doesn't check where a signal really came from. It just locks on to whichever one is loudest and cleanest. And a transmitter a few kilometers away always wins that contest. A crude spoofer teleports your position instantly, and modern systems catch that in seconds. A good one nudges it a few meters at a time until the drift is enormous. Pilots describe their moving map suddenly placing them over a different country, or circling an airport that isn't there, or sitting inside restricted airspace they never actually entered. Worse, a wrong position can fool the plane's own terrain warning system, triggering a real pull-up alarm for a mountain that isn't actually there. And because so many onboard systems quietly borrow GPS for their clock, the damage spreads. Weather radar timing, cabin Wi-Fi, even how the plane reports its own position to everyone else. None of this needed military money to build. The radio hardware capable of faking a GPS signal now costs a few $100s and fits in a backpack. Most of it traces back to 3 places: the Black Sea, the Eastern Mediterranean, and the Iran-Iraq border. That's not a coincidence. It's military hardware used there deliberately to protect ships and bases and to confuse enemy drones. Civilian planes are just flying through the blast radius. It first became impossible to ignore in September 2023, when fake ground signals pulled more than 20 commercial and business jets off course over Iran and Iraq. Along one specific corridor, airlines use constantly between Europe and the Gulf. One business jet headed for Dubai nearly crossed into Iranian airspace without authorization, entirely because its navigation had quietly failed and no one caught it in time. In August 2024, a United Airlines flight from New Delhi to New York picked up a spoofing signal over the Black Sea. Its GPS position stayed wrong for the rest of the flight. But by late 2025, this had stopped being something that only happens near a war zone. That November, 7 major Indian airports, Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru among them, saw spoofing attacks specifically during landing, the single most dangerous phase of any flight. By the aviation regulator's own count, a quarter of all 2024 spoofing events happened during final approach, and incidents rose nearly 200% in a single year. By the end of 2025, it had reached the Caribbean too, near Venezuela. thousands of kilometers from any front line. Airlines now reroute entire flight paths around the worst corridors, burning extra fuel on every trip, and insurers have started pricing that risk in. So how do pilots even notice? Training now covers the tells, a position that jumps in an unnaturally straight line, or a speed and altitude that stop matching what the engines are actually doing. Every aircraft still carries a backup that needs no satellite at all, inertial sensors that track every turn and acceleration directly from the moment of takeoff. And decades-old ground radio beacons are still out there too, along with air traffic control's own radar, which owes nothing to GPS and can't be spoofed the same way. Newer receivers fight back by checking multiple satellite networks at once: GPS, Europe's Galileo, others. So a spoofer has to fake all of them convincingly, together. And some networks can now sign their broadcasts cryptographically, the same basic idea as a verified certificate on a website. So a receiver can actually check the signal is real. None of that is standard yet. Refitting a global airline fleet takes years, and the spoofing keeps evolving faster than the fix rolls out. The most trusted number on a modern flight deck can be quietly, deliberately wrong. For now, the only real defense is a pilot who still knows how to fly without believing it.